you guys are going to actually be able to be kind of like a little teacher.
To practice the student-centered coaching model, I began working with Kara, a first grade teacher at Metcalf School. She wanted to focus on her center time and wanted to work on a way for students to enhance their work by checking in with another student. We began by determining which standard we would focus on, which was RL 1.2. We unpacked the standard and chose a student learning goal. I can retell the plot by sequencing the order of events. Since she was already planning for students to meet this goal in their writing center, we began to plan another center called Prove It, where students would share their thinking with a peer and have a discussion to improve their work. We met and co-planned the protocol for the Prove It Center with explicit steps for each partner, sentence stems, and icons. We also planned how she would explicitly model it the first day by doing a fishbowl with another student, focusing on the first 2 steps of the protocol.
So remember, today I was talking about this morning how we're going to talk about a new center that we're going to start having called Prove It, right? So before we talk about Prove It, I want us to remember our goal today. So our goal was to retell the plot by sequencing the order of events. So today in Writing Center, you had to retell the plot by using first, next, then, and finally, and using it in your own words, right? Yeah. So how can I connect my writing to Prove It? Well, let's see. You're going to take your Writing Center that you did, and you're going to be doing a few steps. And the purpose of Prove It is so you can check your answers with a partner to see if you got your writing correct. Because you know what? Sometimes Mrs. Kara is going through your writing work, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, it's really good, but then right there you made a mistake. And I don't have all the time to go through everyone's papers every night, right? And say the mistakes you made. So you guys are going to actually be able to be kind of like a little teacher and help your friends identify the mistakes they might have made. Because in this class, mistakes what?
Help us improve.
So mistakes help us improve. So you're going to actually be helping your friends improve their writing, okay? And you're going to be doing that by doing the Prove It Center. So I can prove my answers to a partner so that we can decide if they are accurate, right? If they're correct. So accurate is that big word for correct, okay? So we're going to do it in 2 steps. There's more than 2 steps. There's a few steps. But today, we're just going to work on these first 2 steps. And Prove It Center, you need your writing, and you need your book. Because how are you going to prove your answers if you don't have your book? And good readers always
Reread.
So if we're rereading, we need to be able to have our book to prove it, right? So here's our first step. Partner 1 is going to read their work aloud. And then they're going to use the text to prove their answers. So those are the 2 steps we're going to do today. And if you're a good partner, you should be looking at me and listening, right? Okay. First, the beaver really loved his fluffy tail. So that's what I think happened first. But now I have to prove it, right? So first, the beaver really loved his fluffy tail. So let's see. Here we go. So I'm going to use this sentence stem. I wrote because I read. And I'm going to explain why I think that. Okay? So I wrote that the beaver really loved his fluffy tail because on the first page, we read how much the beaver loved his fluffy tail, right? He was always brushing it. So that's what made me think that that happened first.
His tail was flat and he was sad.
His tail was flat and he was sad. Can you show me, prove it to me where his tail was flat? Oh, and he was sad, right? So I hear you have a suggestion for his work, right? And this is the whole point of the Prove It Center. Is making suggestions to make the work even better. But I think tomorrow you're going to try it out. And you're just going to try out the first 2 steps. Do you think we can do it?
Yes.
Are we excited about Prove It? Yeah. Okay, so I want you to do one last thing. I want you to turn to your partner, and if your partner's out today, just turn to the person who's closest to you. With your partner, and green can go first, and if you guys have 3 people today, just think about who you want to go first, okay? And I want you to tell your partner, listen to my question, how do you think Prove It Center is going to help your work? That's okay. We can still talk about it.
So Ethan's idea?
After modeling, we debriefed and discussed what went well and how the student did connected to the goal. Kara noticed that the student didn't reread the text to prove his answer, so we decided she would then remodel the second day with a focus on rereading. She would then have students practice the 2 steps with a partner on the rug for guided practice.
We're so excited about our Prove It Center that we got to try out yesterday. But I was thinking about that lesson from yesterday. Me and Miles came up, we tried it together, right? And I think we did a pretty good job. Thumbs up if you think we did a pretty good job. Okay. But then I was really thinking, I was like, Miles and I kind of retold the story, Herman, just by using our pictures. And I thought, well, what do good readers do? What do good readers do?
Reread.
What do they do?
Reread.
And I was like, we didn't really reread the story. We kind of just used our pictures to retell the story. And that's okay, but I also want to challenge us. I also want us to try to reread the story. Who's up for the challenge today? You guys are? Okay, perfect. So then I read, next, a little bat with no wings wanted to play, but the animals wouldn't let him play. The big animals wouldn't let him play. Oh, you saw that I should have added the word big, right?
That's what it said.
Oh, but the big animals, thank you, Ethan, wouldn't let him play. So as a partner, what are you going to ask me to do?
Prove it.
What?
Prove it.
Oh, well, I know that this happened next because I read it. And good readers reread. So let me prove it to you. Here was the bat, right? Now I remember this is when the bat came. So let me reread. Just then, an animal with 4 very little legs stepped up. It was a gray bat. He went to the animals. Can I play on this team, he asked. Oh, you're much too small to play, laughed the animals. And look at those little legs. We can't win with you. So now I just reread to prove to you what happened next. Let's try it out. Let's give it a shot. Go ahead. I think you're up to the challenge. Go ahead. Go ahead, Ethan. You can go first since you didn't finish, okay? I'll hold it. You read your first, okay?
On the 3rd day, she modeled having students highlight their evidence before sharing, and then had them try the first 2 steps in a center. We created a noticing recording sheet with the learning targets we wanted to look for, with some focusing on content and some focusing on process.
Next, okay. As dressed up as a fireman.
I like that you went back because you knew that didn't say the silent.
The hen wasn't foolish to give a fox his egg. Prove it. Why would I give a fox one of my eggs? Fox made a trick on hen. Prove it. was dressed up as a farmer.
When we debriefed to share what we noticed based on the learning targets, we named celebrations. One was that 100% could write events in order. We also named other noticings. A handful of students had difficulty putting their answer in their own words. So Kara decided to put those students in a group and poll them for more explicit instruction. She also plans to introduce the next steps of the Prove It protocol and model rereading together in order for them to agree or disagree with their partner. Through this student-centered coaching process, it has been a partnership between Kara and I, where we co-created goals and co-created next steps based on student learning.
And you're going to be